Hello, welcome to another tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy. And the painting I'm bringing you today is called Sepia River. And it's a 5x7, and I painted it this last week. Yeah, doing the sepia thing, it's been a little while, maybe a couple years since I did the sepia series. But if this sort of thing interests you, check out the playlist area. There's a whole playlist of sepia series stuff, and those paintings did pretty well when I exhibited them. As far as people buying them, good time. Yep. Anyway, so a lot of what I'm about when I'm doing this sort of thing is restraint. The colors I used were burnt umber, brown ochre, yellow ochre, titanium white, and Mars black, and raw umber. Raw umber wasn't as great a player because of its transparency. What I was choosing to do instead was maybe bring a little Mars black into the brown ochre to give me more of a raw umbery sort of tone. To me, when you're talking sepia, it shouldn't be overly red. So now the board itself, the prep, that board does come off a bit red, and that's a bit of MDF actually I've had around, and I just rubbed some, a transparent gesso with a little bit of probably burnt sienna or burnt umber acrylic paint. Yeah, and then the underpainting was done with some, I think burnt umber and maybe Mars black. I don't believe I chose to go the Paraline route here because it's sort of a limited deal. The one of the things that I kind of lead into was the titanium white, and to get transparency out of titanium white, I really upped the quantity of oil. Yeah. Um, so this is based on a what's called pictorialism, a pictorialist photo, turn of the last century, early 1900s. Actually had a little figure in it which I chose to show of a woman fishing very exuberantly, and she would of course become the whole subject, but I was more attracted to the light on the water. Obviously, well, not obviously, you may not know, but I did a lot of things to change the composition. I added a lot more sky to the photo and brought in my own sky, which I always do. But so many things I did keep, like the high contrast in the water, the shadows and reflections on the water. The other thing is, on this painting, I sort of go for kind of a strokey thing. Probably just a byproduct of me watching, 2 or 3 Vincent van Gogh documentaries. I'm such a big fan, and I was showing one of my students, how you can break things down into the strokes, and I think I've said before on this channel that so much what he was doing, I'm sure a lot of painters looked at it and said, oh, okay, well, that's what my stuff looks like before I mix it as well, right? So it's a matter of oftentimes blending. Another artist I've been looking at, and don't laugh, is Thomas Kincaid, and not a huge fan of the cottages and the bunches of flowers everywhere and the lights in the window. But you know what? There's no arguing with success, and um, the guy had a lot of technical ability. So I've been watching a few videos, and it's very interesting to watch how he was putting paintings together. And I wasn't aware that he had worked for Hollywood and was doing if you ever saw that movie Fire and Ice, that was like the Frank Frazetta, him and I want to say Journey, I can't remember his first name, but were the two background artists in that entire movie. So pretty cool stuff. So one of my things is like restraint of the reds. I don't want to go too far into the reds. I did decide to go, I was going to say yellows, but on the grassy area I decided to get into some pretty strong yellow ochre there. And I think that was an attractive result. Looked good. Like I said, I got a little bit strokey. Um, that's something I can play up sometimes or diminish. Or if you look at a lot of my work, I just do little bits of it here and there. And I think it's kind of best used with some restraint. Maybe I got a little carried away on this one. It's hard to say. You can see a lot more of that a lot of times in my underpainting, especially if I'm well, like I just said I was definitely taking in a lot of Van Gogh recently, and that's what a great drawer he was. People act like this guy had no talent, but he could draw like nobody's business. He was good, and he could do like whole cities and towns of buildings in perspective very, very well. Yeah, I'm a fan. I assume you probably are too. If you're a fan of painting, I think you got to be a fan of him. Now, that big tall tree there, obviously in the reference, it was a little different, and so this is a little bit designed. I did struggle a bit with the balance between light and shadow on that tree, and honestly, I liked how in the tree in the back, I stuck with just sort of a darker thing, and I've played with the idea of maybe modifying that, but usually my inclination is just leave the paintings alone. If you go in and start messing around, then everything gets kind of tighter, and you lose that. One of the sort of the bloom of creativity, right? Because the painting is. It's been a while since I've talked about this on the channel, but you may not realize it, but what you're actually doing is making a record of consciousness. Every stroke, is a like a three-way deal. So you've got the universe, you've got time, and you've got yourself, and where your state of mind is as you're painting. And those three factors are always going to be unique. You're never going to be in that same time again, and you're never going to be exactly the same person either. And you will usually not make the same decisions. It depends on a lot of things, both big and small. Hey, you know what? We're going to have an ad for the book coming up. I don't think I sold a few here locally, but no orders. So get on the dime if you've been wanting to get this book, and get yourself a signed and numbered copy from the artist himself. It's $60 US, which is a bit pricey, but all of the international shipping and everything is included there. So all you have to do is go to my website and order it. I worked real hard on it, and I think there's a lot of great info in there, especially if you're interested in my sort of approach to painting, which is tonal, and getting back into this sepia. I haven't seen a lot of full-out sepia toneless work. Usually they might bring in some greens or something, but it would be a piece of cake to just bring this into a state of color quite easily. But I really like, first of all, working with just those 5 colors on the palette is quite liberating. And so, talking a bit about that, trying to balance your colors. So you have, in the light areas, you're bringing in the warmth of the yellow ochre. You need to balance that constantly with, say, the raw umber, right? And that's where and you'll get a color like I get there that doesn't scream yellow ochre in it. Like I said, in the grass, I started pushing things into almost pure yellow ochre, which is very yellow. It's quite bright, but when you use it in mixtures, it can give way. A lot of times, too, I will lean into the yellow ochre for its opacity, the properties it has that way. It's not 100% opaque, but certainly more opaque than some of the earth pigments. And speaking of earth pigments, I was working with a student of mine today and showing her the differences between, say, if you get burnt sienna from Winsor Newton, you're not really getting burnt sienna at all. You're getting red iron oxide, transparent red iron oxide. Now, actual burnt sienna is semi-transparent, and that's a world of difference. Okay, on a surface level, they could be the same, and a lot of mixtures that it wouldn't be do or die. But I personally enjoy that little bit of um, opacity that you get with actual burnt sienna. Um, Same thing goes for like this tube I cracked open. I barely use it raw. I think it was raw sienna. And she's like, "Well, that looks very transparent." And what do you know? I looked; it was Georgian, a big tube of. I don't use it because it's very too close to yellow ochre, and but it was very transparent. That would have been the difference. So you could be maybe finding subtle uses for it, but yeah, you don't want to over clutter your palette. You want to have, first of all, the more colors you have in your palette, the harder it'll be for you to match something down the road if you miss the passage, or if you need to, for some reason, go in and adjust and you don't have any paint um, on your palette. Now, there in the grass area, it's yellow ochre with a bit of white. Yeah, because, and that's, I had a request recently from a friend of the channel talk about, this is perfect too, because we can get this done in a couple minutes, about color killing, right? And the color killing properties of white. White is often a color I select to decrease saturation, decrease chroma, and that's usually a bad thing. You know, a lot of times when I'm mixing colors, say in the sky, one of the things I always teach is that when you bring in the white, you also bring in some other bit of color, like could be cad yellow or cad orange or yellow ochre or whatever is required for the job. Because that white will chalk things up and kill the color, but you can be strategic with that. Like I was in the grass there, I used the white too. Yes, it's bright, but the yellow ochre straight up would have been fairly, it would have seemed even brighter because it would have had extra chroma. So white always kills your color. You can use that to your advantage. Um, or you can adjust for it while you're painting, you know. It's good to know. Other things that I mean, obviously we use white to make things lighter predominantly, but it has some other uses. Um, I was showing my student today two other color killers. I've talked about this on the channel, but we're always getting new people, especially here. Here you are at 12 minutes in. You might be interested in hearing about it. So, making your colors look natural is a big part of making them look beautiful. So, your colors straight from the tube oftentimes will be too chromatic, too intense. So you need to kill that color. You need to desaturate it. I always call it color killing, or and I call the two main colors I use for that job the color killers, and that is raw umber is the warm color killer, and cool color killer is ivory black. And so if I have a color and it's too much saturation in it, but I want to kill that saturation in a warm way, we use a little bit of raw umber, and that makes the color feel more natural. Dirties it up a little, but will suck some of the color out. And now you can have cases where like raw umber would be very saturated. Say if you take a white board and some oil and just rub the raw umber over it, it will seem pretty saturated, you know, but in general you can use it to kill color in mixes. Yeah, and the black, of course, it does the same thing. As a matter of fact, so many my student teaches kids, and she doesn't give them black because they make a lot of ugly colors with it, which is why a lot of teachers of painting don't give their students black, because they make ugly colors. But knowing that, just like you know what white can do, means that you can use the black to creatively dull or kill your colors in a lot of subtle and beautiful ways. That would be very difficult to achieve any other way. I mean, you can get into your chromatics with your phthalos versus your crimsons and all of that, but both of those are super chromatic, so have a tendency not to be that canceling. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you got something out of watching me paint this, if nothing else. If you did, check out my members area. There's a live version there, probably 2 hours long. Me burbling along as I paint, trying to help you out and get some insights. Also, we've got the painting for sale on my site. Go get it. Help a guy out. And leave me a comment, please. And until we come back with another video, please take good care, stay out of trouble, and God bless you and your family.